I tell this story to myself whenever I feel helpless or start thinking I'm not capable of doing something. I was born and raised in a village, a typical Indian village, with no running water, no proper roads, no good schools, and barely any resources to do anything meaningful. Life in a village is somehow both peaceful and painful at the same time. I was born into a lower middle class family. 6 months later, I lost my leg because an RMP, regular medical practitioner, people who provide basic medical care in villages where there are no real doctors, didn't know how to treat an illness. So I grew up a little differently. By the time I reached 6th grade, people around me constantly reminded me that I wasn't like the other kids. I still remember running to my mom in tears, saying, I didn't do anything wrong. Why me? Every time a bully gave me trouble, or made fun of my disability, my mom would hold me, comfort me, and say, they're stupid. You should shut them up by becoming the topper of the school, the smartest kid in the village. There was only one school in the village. In fact, it was the only school within a 20-kilometer radius. Kids from nearby villages used to come to our school. It had only 4 rooms, yet there were about 600 students in total. Because of that, many of us had to sit outside the classrooms, sometimes in the veranda, sometimes under the tree next to the school. And you know what the best part was? Every time it rained, we got a holiday. I remember our teacher writing the best, and the dedes lest de bestrad de tuos destin stark, were plestis formula on the school wall, using a piece of charcoal, because there were no blackboards and not even a piece of chalk. There were a few very good teachers, but given the number of students, the school was severely understaffed. Well-educated young people from the village, those who had completed their 12th grade, would volunteer to teach us. I always held on to what my mother told me, and it became my mission to be the topper in every test. Fortunately, I remained the topper throughout my school life. There was a tiny library in my village, just a 10 by 10 foot room. That little place was my best friend. I knew every corner of it, and I could tell where every book belonged. I used to read at least 8 newspapers. I would borrow the key to the library, not the books, and spend most of my Sundays in that small room. I never had a meal without a book in my hand. Then came the 10th standard board exam. In India, it's a big milestone for students. Like most of my friends, I studied for that exam as if nothing else in the world mattered. When the results came out, I had secured a district rank, which is supposed to be a big deal, because you're competing with every student in the entire district. Through the newspapers I used to read, I had learned about a machine called a desktop computer. Everything about it, the CPU, the memory, and the amazing things city people could do with it, but I had never actually seen one. That's when I realized that if I stayed in the village, there was no future for me. I had to move out. I went to a college in Hyderabad because they agreed to admit me for free based on my 10th grade performance. Throughout my schooling from Class I to Class X, I had studied in Telugu, my mother tongue, as the medium of instruction. I wasn't ready to change that yet, so I continued my 11th and 12th grades plus 1 and 2 in Telugu medium as well. This was the first time I had ever left my village, and that college in Hyderabad had many students like me. Somehow I managed to get a state rank this time too, and I secured a seat in a very good engineering college. On my first day of college, I was surrounded by rich kids, and I felt extremely nervous. The lecturer asked how many of us came from a village or hadn't attended a good school. I was the only one who raised my hand. In that moment, I understood exactly where I stood in the class. I knew I had to work incredibly hard. Then I saw the engineering physics textbook. Honestly, it was one of the most terrifying moments of my life. The book was huge. It was the first time I had ever seen such a big book, written in English. None of the terms made any sense to me. Viscosity, what even is that? Around the same time, my family's financial situation got worse, and I had to cut down on almost all expenses. I remember walking 10 kilometers, about 6 miles, just to save 5 rupees 10 cents. I kept a record of every single expense, and I still have those notes. Once I survived an entire month on just 26 rupees. Somehow, over time, I managed. Eventually, I landed a job offer from an IT company. I read the entire offer letter out loud to my mom and translated every line for her. Later that night, I overheard my dad saying, "The kid is just 20 years old and he already earns more than me." My monthly salary was almost equal to my dad's annual income. I worked there for 2 years, and it really improved my financial situation. Then I decided to take the CAT exam. My score got me into one of the top management institutes in India. I graduated and have been doing well since.
So I'd even bought my mom a house in Hyderabad with a big kitchen, the one she had always dreamed of. If you want, you can also share your own story in the comments, and I'll showcase it for everyone.